The pain shot through to my legs, the air leaving my lungs, and I didn't have time to move before the saber sprinted in my direction. "Sandra, run!" Jasmine yelled. Just as the saber came to a leap, a spear sliced through the air, the tip of it cutting through the saber's side. With a growl, it twisted through the air, crashing to its side a few feet away from me. Quickly, I scrambled to my feet and sprinted down the hill.
Diamonds and Dust. Within the walls, there is Lytonia, a utopian nation that does not accept the weak or the defective. Outside the walls are the dangerous and unpredictable wildlands. Neither are safe, and both have their secrets. Hello, my name is Destiny Hawkins, and I am the author of Diamonds and Dust. This futuristic dystopian fantasy is one of many episodes portraying characters from the dark fantasy book series, The Descendants. You can listen to this episode at any time, including to fall asleep, during study time, as you commute, and so forth. Also, keep in mind that you can listen to any episode in any order. Below, you can find the links to the Descendants book series, which I highly recommend that you start for better understanding. Otherwise, enjoy the wonders and point of views of characters you'll grow to love.
The moment I opened my eyes, I found myself already eager for the day's adventure. I gazed up through the hole in our tent and smiled at the gray clouds, the yellow suns reflecting from one side, creating shadows beneath the clouds. The blue sky only added to its beauty. Folding my hands over my chest, I turned my head to find Mama and Papa sleeping together on the far side. Mama was beautiful, perfectly fitting in Papa's protective arms. She could protect herself perfectly fine, as she was my trainer most of the time, but when Father was around, she allowed him to be the protector. Sometimes, after weeks of hunting, when he was finally back, she'd start smiling the way she only did when he was around. But when he was away, she was tense, and I always had to stay close. We lived a little way from the rest of the tribe, but not so far out that we couldn't run for help in the case that the suited men came around. Mama didn't know that I knew about them. On one of Papa's hunting trips, the only one I had ever been allowed to join, we had come across a group of suited people. They were headed towards the forests, surrounding some kind of wagon that kept people in cages. We were far away, up in a mountain, but my father was so worried that we'd be seen by them that we had to stay hidden in a small cave for an entire night. He didn't tell me much at that moment, but on the way home, he explained about how the suited men had completely wiped out his tribe and entire family when he was just a boy. Mama was all who escaped with him, back when they were just friends. He said that he had only heard of there being one survivor from his tribe, but she was likely executed by now. The only person who could have possibly survived the gruesome trip to the walls was their tribe daughter, a title only given to the gods, sons and daughters born in the mountain tribes. Papa explained that the only reason he and Mama had even escaped was because their tribe daughter stopped to fight, or allowing the two of them to get away. He cracked a sad smile when he said that she had probably already planned to turn around after she was sure that they were safe. That was just like her. Being the tribe daughter, people were always somewhat wary of her. Papa and Mama were her only friends, so she showed her appreciation for them by protecting them in any way that she could. Their friendship had always involved her getting him out of trouble. Papa described his last memory of the tribe daughter who was trained from childhood to be the tribe's protector. She was facing the suited men, her red hair blowing in the wind over her back. Blood dripped from her fingertips. Her stance both weakened and threatening as she formed a royal blue metal shield on one arm and a sword in the other. Even as a child, she was a force to be reckoned with. When Mama and Papa escaped, they found a home at our cousin tribe. The night we spotted the suited ones was the only time I had ever seen Papa show any fear. He held me so tightly that night, I almost thought I'd suffocate. I would never forget how his hands trembled, just like Mama's hands sometimes trembled when she thought I wasn't looking. Taking in a deep breath, I turned my head to face the opening of the tent. The wind blew, revealing the outside world. From where I lay, I could see the land spread out below the cliff a few feet away from our tent. There were green trees below, and I could see the shimmer of a lake. My favorite morning view. Silently, I stood from where I lay and walked outside, the sun instantly warming my skin. It was quiet up on the mountain we lived on. The wind, bugs, and trees, the loudest sounds around me. I grabbed the tip of my braid hanging over my shoulder and fiddled with it while admiring the nature that was my home. I always loved coming outside, sometimes just to listen to the silence. It was Mama who could understand the hidden language spoken in the wind. Sometimes, when she thought that she was alone and I was hiding somewhere nearby to watch, she'd come out and sit on the ground, cross her legs, and close her eyes. She once told me that she was doing something called meditation, and when she was meditating, she could silence the world and understand the words spoken between the breaths of the wind. I tried to understand it a few times, but there was never a voice that I could hear, just the loud thoughts in my head screaming for me to do something more along the lines of an adventure. When I heard the flap of our tent, I looked back to find Papa stepping out of it. His face was hard, as it was every morning just before he spotted me smiling back at him. I had no idea why Papa always awakened as if he were ready for a fight, but whenever he saw me or Mama, he'd instantly go from a grizzly bear to a black bear. "Up early again?" Papa asked. I looked out over the cliff. At some point today, it would finally be time to begin the day's fun. With Papa home, I could have a little more freedom than being stuck with Mama. If there was ever a time that she did anything fun, it was probably in her past life. Yeah, Jasmine and the others should be up soon. She has to bring her little sister along, so it takes her longer than usual to get here. Now that all the men are back, Jasmine says her parents always want the tent to themselves. I shrugged. Said it was something about alone time? Anyways, now Jackie always has to come with us, and she can never keep up. Papa chuckled as he stepped up beside me. You always have so many words in the morning. I chuckled with him, my cheeks warming. Sorry, I just always have so many thoughts. I shrugged. When he placed his hand over my shoulder and I fell into his side, I understood why my mama let her guard down with Papa around. He felt like protection and safety, kind of like how the mountains protected us. He just made us feel safe. I looked up at his big brown eyes. They were kind when turned towards me and Mama. They could sometimes seem frightening, but I knew he'd never hurt us, so I didn't let it scare me. I actually admired how intimidating my Papa looked. He was a tall man with dark olive skin, like mine and Mama's, and had dark brown hair that hung to the back of his neck. It was always hot, so he was usually shirtless with a pair of trousers he called jeans. At least that was what he called them after returning from a long hunting trip one day. His chest, arms, and abs bulged as if he were always ready for a fight. And over time, I started to believe that he was. I guess that was because he was always ready to protect us. How has your training been going? Learn anything new while I was away? He asked. I smiled. I'm getting stronger. Papa chuckled. Really? Then show me. I gave Papa a mischievous grin before springing at him, the power in my legs pushing me straight at him. I aimed my fist for his chin, but of course, I missed. Mama did mention that springing at my opponent head-on wouldn't always work, but I thought I'd catch Papa by surprise. Papa's eyebrows furrowed as he quickly stepped to the side and let me flip by. He was a bright, so he could see my movements even quicker than Mama, who was an elim. Before allowing me to completely get away, he grabbed my ankle while in midair and flung me back to the ground with a force that sent me rolling over the dirt. The blow was light, but enough to get me excited. Quickly getting back to my feet, I sprinted at an angle before turning in to attack Papa from the side. He had already read my movements and stopped me mid-plan, flashing in front of me instead. Before I could come to a stop, he backhanded me so hard in the chest that my legs kept going without me, and I found myself crashing onto my back. Papa stood over me, his eyes appearing hard, but I knew him. You're faster. You didn't really let me show you anything, I sighed, slightly annoyed. He chuckled. You've shown me enough. Papa reached his hand out and helped me to my feet. When Mama came out, she summoned flames through her palm and started the morning fire near the tent. Breakfast will be ready soon. I heard Jasmine complaining to Jackie about something nearby. They were right on time. It's all right, Mama. I'm not hungry, I said as I began to run off. Sandra, you should eat your breakfast. Mama's voice trailed as I jogged down the path. I'll grab some juicy fruit. I'll be back for supper. Be safe, I heard them both yell as I stumbled down the hill to a stop. Now, surrounded by trees on the mountain path, I faced Jasmine and Jackie, both different in age but nearly identical in features. You guys finally made it, I said excitedly. Jasmine rolled her eyes, stopping them on her little sister's head. If Jackie wasn't so slow, we could have been here earlier. Jackie frowned, her blue eyes annoyed. I want to go back. Jasmine's eyes widened as she puffed up her chest, her temper ready to flare, just before she calmed and shook her head. We can't. Mama and Papa need some time alone, so you're stuck with us. Or more so, I'm stuck with you. I want to go back. Jackie's face scrunched hard until tears began to fall. Jasmine rolled her eyes again with a huff before flicking her long black braid over her shoulder and leaning her weight into her spear. I chuckled at the two of them, their personalities so different. Jasmine was always kind of the mean one, where Jackie was just a plain old crybaby. Maybe she was a crybaby because Jasmine was so mean? Well, she wasn't mean to me, but she didn't make many friends with that attitude of hers. Jackie didn't make many friends either, but she was just a kid. Most of the time, kids her age stayed with their parents, or in our case, hung out with her big sister and closest friend. The three of us were almost like family. I didn't make too many friends either, but I didn't care much for visiting the tribe settlement. Not as much as I cared about exploring and adventuring. Sometimes, the other kids would come around to join us on our adventures, but after that, we wouldn't see them for days or even weeks at a time. Jasmine was my only consistent friend, which made me feel special since she didn't really like anyone. I wasn't even sure if she liked her own sister. So? Jasmine cocked a brow, her blue eyes in contrast to her dark olive skin. What crazy idea do you have today? I smiled and started walking down the path. Let's go. Jasmine and Jackie followed behind, arguing as usual. I had my eyes on what I could see of the clouds through the trees. Small rays of light peeked between the leaves, giving a slight glow to the greens and yellows surrounding me. I took in a deep breath of air and closed my eyes as I exhaled. For a moment, I felt the slight breeze of the wind and tried to hear it again, like Mama when she was meditating. That ended early when I tripped over a rock and stumbled down the steep hill. Since the hill rounded a curve that turned into a cliff, continuing forward, I stomped my foot into the ground using my bright strength and stopped myself just before sliding over the edge. When I looked back, I saw that Jasmine was sliding down behind me, urgency in her eyes. She stopped at my side with a relieved sigh. Wow, and I thought Jackie was a lot to look after. I chuckled nervously as I looked over the edge. Yeah, me too. Jasmine and I looked at each other before bursting into laughter. Our laughter stopped when Jackie stood unsteadily on the hill, crying about needing help coming down. Jasmine grumbled and rolled her eyes before stomping back up the steep hill. After we made it around the mountain, we stood at the edge of the path and watched the tribe settlement below. They were hidden well in between the trees that was surrounded by mountains on every side. Nearby was a lake where we spotted most of the women and children collecting water. Just high up enough, we could see between the mountains on the far side. We weren't completely protected by them, but it gave us all the illusion that we were. We're going down to the settlement? Jackie asked in excitement. For a moment, Jasmine looked down at her sister with a sad expression. I didn't know why she avoided the settlement when it came to taking Jackie, but figured she just didn't want the responsibility of watching her around so many people. Jasmine sighed, then frowned. Mama and Papa said no. But why? Jackie whined. No one ever takes me down there. Because you can't. Jasmine turned to me. So, Where's the adventure then? Oh, just ahead at the cross paths, we'll head up the side of the mountain, I shrugged. The adventure is finding us a yellow orb. Jasmine rolled her eyes. Another orb hunt? Don't you get tired of chasing those? We never catch any. I gave a mischievous grin. Yeah, at night. I placed my hand on my hip. Papa says that they can be caught during the day. They're slower and sometimes sleeping. Oh, Jasmine nodded, like Jackie. She shrugged and continued on. Jackie frowned before marching after her. She probably was unable to put the insult together, but she just knew that her sister had said something unkind. I chuckled and followed behind. Barely halfway up the mountain, I found a slightly leveled area where we would be able to run and chase the orbs freely. It also helped that there were so many trees, creating shadows for us to spot the orbs more clearly. When they were sleeping, their glow had a small pulse, barely noticeable in the light, but they could be seen in the shade if someone were searching. Found one first, Jasmine yelled as she sprinted past me in a blur, the force of her speed causing me to stumble back. I felt a challenge rise within me as I lowered my stance and began to search frantically with my eyes. Yeah, but you didn't catch one first, I yelled just before spotting one ahead of me. It was awake and slowly floating upwards, towards a hill of boulders. Found one, Jackie finally yelled, her voice filled with childlike pride. I'll beat you too, I thought as I raced after the sleepy orb. It swayed in different directions before finally landing on the ground behind a boulder. Slowing my sprint to a stop, I crept towards the boulder, my hands ready to finally capture a golden orb. I didn't know what I was going to do with it when I caught it. Likely, I would let it go. I had just always wanted to touch one and feel its fur. Orbs were hard to catch, the wind between your hands and the orb practically causing it to float around your grip. Catching one was something Brights could brag about, demonstrating our speed and control. I grinned at the thought of catching one before Jasmine. She won at just about everything, especially combat. The least I could do was beat her at finding a fuzzy ball of light. Ready to pounce, I leaped around the boulder and spotted the orb, but froze in place, unable to move. The orb was where I thought it was, but it was sitting on the back of something large and covered in slick black fur. It was laying down, its big silver eyes trained on me, with two large white fangs that curved out past its chin. A black mountain saber. I swallowed, afraid to make any sudden movements. Papa had only told me stories about the mountain sabers, so I knew to fear them, especially since he was afraid of them. The mountain saber gave a low growl, the golden orb floating off its back and swishing past my face. Its fur brushed my bicep. A bead of sweat slid down the side of my cheek, my heart racing. I have to run. Taking a slow step back, the mountain saber jumped to its feet, the next warning growl causing my legs to shake. For what felt like forever, the saber and I watched each other. I wasn't sure what it was thinking, but it couldn't have been anything nice. Sabers were very protective of their territory once claimed. I had no idea that there would ever be a saber so close to the settlement. They tended to stay high in the mountains, only to ever come down or choose a new territory when they needed to hunt. But the mountains surrounding our settlement had no prey. That was why our hunters had to leave for weeks at a time. This saber must have traveled into our mountains searching for food that wasn't there. And now he had us. Caught one! Jasmine suddenly yelled in triumph. Startled, the saber drew its claws, the points shooting into the dirt, before lunging at me. With a scream, I barely got out of the way, leaping down the hill and landing on my shoulder. Clenching my teeth, I tumbled down the hill until sliding into a boulder against my back. The pain shot through to my legs, the air leaving my lungs, and I didn't have time to move before the saber sprinted in my direction. Sandra, run! Jasmine yelled. Just as the saber came to a leap, a spear sliced through the air, the tip of it cutting through the saber's side. With a growl, it twisted through the air, crashing to its side a few feet away from me. Quickly, I scrambled to my feet and sprinted down the hill. I could taste blood in my mouth and my back was in pain, but that wasn't going to slow me down. The saber was only momentarily distracted, but now it was on full go. The moment Jasmine saw me coming, she sprinted towards Jackie and grabbed her, running back down the way we came. I was right behind her, the two of us now on the path toward the settlement. I could hear the growls of the saber behind us, and was almost relieved when we came to the opening. In full speed, it wasn't so far away. Too bad the saber was faster. Sprinting down the hill at Jasmine's side, the saber leaped at the sisters. Jackie screamed when the saber collided into them, the two crashing to the ground and splitting apart as they tumbled down the hill. Jackie stopped and slammed into a tree, falling unconscious, but Jasmine was still going, and her fall was brutal. She rolled over rocks, stumps, and momentarily went into the air before finally coming to a stop after slamming onto the opening of the path, unmoving. "Jasmine," I screamed, my voice echoing through the trees. I cringed, my eyes widening with frightened tears as I worried for my friend, but I couldn't worry for too long. The saber wasn't done. Running back onto the path, the saber stood between me and Jasmine. I slid to a stop, my legs trembling. I suddenly heard the sound of a faint cry from behind and remembered that Jackie was still up there. She needed her sister. A twinkle of something sparkling shimmered behind the saber as it floated into the air, and for a moment, I was distracted by the sparkles. More and more rose into the air, floating and disappearing into the ray of light that peeked through the leaves. Before I knew it, the saber was directly in my face, its claws high in the air. I looked in between the bladed claws, noticing how the sparkles shimmered away. Where were they going? The saber's claws sliced across my chest, its middle claw dragging down the center. The pain was sharp, the shock of it causing me to fall onto my back. I panted, still keeping my eyes on the sparkles, as tears slipped through the corners of my eyes. As the saber's large face hovered over mine, I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry, but all I could do was pant and wait. Somebody help me, I thought. Papa. As if he could hear my thoughts, I recognized the sound of my papa's roar. He was on the saber in seconds, grabbing it by the back of its neck and swinging it against a tree with so much force that I could hear the sound of something cracking and popping. The saber's growl was cut short as it dropped onto the ground in a heap. Papa rushed over to me, his worried eyes wide and frantic, as he gazed down at my chest. I just stared up at him, numb and unable to move. I could feel blood dripping down my body, and there was a squishing sound when he placed his hands over the cut, but it didn't hurt. Not the way that I thought it would. When I looked up again, I noticed that the sparkles had stopped. Papa. I blinked away my tears, the world feeling different all of a sudden. Like none of what happened was real. It had all happened so fast, it couldn't have been. We were just having fun, living a normal day. Where did the sparkles go? For the third time in my life, I saw the look of fear on my papa's face. The second was when he found me after the saber had cut into me, and the third was just now. I didn't understand. Why did he look that way? Why did he look so sad? So afraid? Papa pinched his lips together, then he took in a deep breath. Just focus on my energy. Focus on your papa's energy. You remember. We've practiced flowing. You remember. His soft words brought me back to the present, and the pain in my chest becoming more noticeable. Closing my eyes, I cringed and focused on my papa's energy flowing into me. He had taught me how to energy flow when I was young, but we only practiced every once in a while because it was really an adult practice. With experience, there were other levels to it. One could help another person heal. Just like we practiced, okay? Wave in, wave out, Papa repeated as he brushed my hair back. Wave in, wave out. As his words echoed in the distance, I had to make sure he remembered to do the same with Jasmine. She had fallen pretty hard. "Don't forget to help Jasmine," I breathed. "She's hurt. Bad." I opened my eyes and stared up through the hole at the top of the tent, the clouds slowly floating by in gray and white swirls. When the sunlight peeked through, I moved my arm to block it from my eyes. Suddenly feeling a sting in my chest, I grimaced, then frowned. Right, I had forgotten already. My throat ached, the memory of Jasmine's last moments flashing behind my eyes. I wished that I had done something more to help her. Then maybe, sniffling, I wiped my eyes and sat up. Mama and Papa were already up and about. I could smell Mama cooking something outside the tent. Looking down at my bare chest, I frowned at my healing wound. The other 2 cuts had completely healed, but the one in the center was slow to mend itself. If it didn't heal soon, it was going to become a scar. Then I would always remember that day. My lips trembled as I pulled my knees to my chest, dropping my head over them to muffle my sobs. If we hadn't gone on that stupid mountain, if I hadn't chosen that stupid mountain. A gentle hand rested over the back of my head, startling me. Looking up, I found myself gazing into Mama's comforting eyes. Her straight, shoulder-length hair hung at the sides of her face. Being so close, I couldn't help but let my lip curl over as I threw myself into her, ignoring the pain in my chest. Mama wrapped her strong arms around me, holding me close until I finally stopped crying. "Nothing feels okay anymore," I said, numbly. "I hate it." "I understand," Mama whispered as she rubbed the back of my head, my body limp in her arms. "I lost friends before, and nothing felt okay for a long, long time. Does this feeling ever go away?" Mama paused. "Yes, then no. Jasmine was your closest friend. You'll always remember her. You'll always remember what happened. But it doesn't have to be the only thing you remember." When I started listening to the wind, I began to remember things about my friends, my family, things that made me happy, things that made me angry, things that I learned from them. She sighed. That was what made it easier to carry on with life. I thought that they were gone because I could no longer see them, but the lessons I learned from everyone was what kept me from feeling so alone. Your Papa too. We both remembered everything our families taught us. It just took us some time to get used to them not being here. My heart ached again at the thought of Jasmine's frown. She was always frowning, an almost comforting expression. I missed her so much. That's the hard part? Mama released a breath. That's the hard part. There was a long silence as I lay in peace. Then I sniffled. Can we try listening to the wind together? Yes, we can listen to the wind, but you need to eat first. Following Mama out of the tent, Papa's eyes widened in surprise as he bit into his meat. It had been a while since I had come out for anything besides relieving myself. The 3 of us ate in silence together. I could feel Papa looking at me the whole time, but I was too ashamed to look back. Seeing the hurt on his pained expression was too much. It made me feel as if I had done something wrong. Maybe I had? Visiting the mountain was all my idea. After breakfast, Mama and I sat at the edge of the cliff with our legs crossed and our eyes closed. Where I thought I would be focusing on the wind, she wanted me to focus on my breath. She told me to create the wind using my breath, then focus on it until everything else fell away. She mentioned that it would take a while for me to understand and said something about me being too young to get it. But if I started practicing seriously now, then I would eventually get the hang of it. I would finally hear the wisdom of the wind. When Mama had her fill of stillness, she patted me on my shoulder and headed back to start working on lunch. I stayed seated, focused on my breathing. If meditation could help make everything feel a little better again, then I would do what I could. I no longer wanted to keep remembering the worst moment of my life, and I no longer wanted to see the wound on my chest. I just wanted peace, like Mama. Opening my eyes, I immediately shielded them from something golden that flashed in the distance. At first, I thought it was coming from one of the golden orbs. Then I thought it was the lowering sun. but as I looked closely, the flash came from something on the ground. My eyes widened as I jumped to my feet. Out in the distance, on the rocky plain, I spotted 2 trucks with glistening metal cages on the back. Beside it were suited people, each walking with some kind of weapon in their hands. Blinking, I stared down at one particular woman with long red hair that gently blew in the wind. She was staring directly at me, her face void of all emotion, and her eyes reflecting a golden glare from the sunlight. "Suited people," I whispered, fear climbing up my spine as I stepped back. "They found us."
Thank you for listening to Diamonds in the Light, Episode 3 of Diamonds and Dust. If you liked this episode and would like to listen to more, please click the subscribe button. Remember that if you would like the full story, check out the links to the Descendants series below. You can listen to the series as audio, or you can read the ebook or paperback. Also, feel free to join my readers team on Facebook and become an official lighter. There, we discuss the series, play games, and have giveaways. You'll also get first look at what I'm working on next. Otherwise, stay tuned for more episodes.